Welcome back to the Creating Value in Schools podcast, hosted by me, Liz Worthen. And today I'm joined by John Viner, who I think it's true to say is a very experienced educational professional and wearer of many hats. A primary head teacher of over 20 years, writer, RE specialist, faith schools inspector, and a teacher trainer and chair of governors, which is where our conversation today is going to focus. Because I know, John, that with your teacher training hat on, something on your mind at the moment is finding people that want to be in our schools. How do we entice teachers and then also, governors into our
Mm.
schools? So, how about we start by you telling us a bit more about your worries around teacher recruitment at the moment? What are you seeing?
Okay, Liz, the last time I spoke to a conference about this was actually 2017, and we were working on 2016 figures, which were a nightmare in terms of retention. We're told by the government that there are green shoots of recovery, but I think I'll believe that when we see it. The current parliamentary briefing paper on this says the retention of early career teachers has fallen since last year, but remains higher than the record low. And that record low was, as I recall, something like 74% leaving within 5 years. That's unsustainable. So it may be that people are staying longer, but are they? They're a decade after qualification. 59% of teachers are remaining in the profession. 10 years ago, that was 65%. So data started being published on retention in 2010. It's not been a pretty story since then. And then you can divide it into primary and secondary. Secondary physics teachers are, I don't want to say a dying breed, but 40 to 50% of ECT physics teachers are going within 5 years. As you said earlier, I specialise in RE. We're going to lose 30 to 40% of RE teachers in secondary schools in the next 5 years. There's another question over that, which isn't part of this podcast, but it's about the status of RE and how that's going to change. According to government figures, 40% of MFL teachers are due to leave within 5 years. And the annual report by TeacherTapp found that 44% of secondary and 36% of primary heads are expecting to reduce their teaching staff. There are all sorts of reasons for that. So it's a double whammy. People are not staying for all sorts of reasons, which I'm sure we can discuss in a moment. The government have not hit their recruitment target for more than a decade. And although they talk about the green shoots of recovery, whatever the chap's name is, Chatworth, is it, from NFER, says, well, Labour still has to continue its plans to recruit 6,500 teachers by 2029. And I say I believe that when I see it, quite frankly. Looking at the figures up to 2022, according to EPI, who I've just discovered are quite useful, those that survive until retirement are probably around 40%. So it's a funny old picture, and I don't think there's a turnaround anytime soon.
Interesting. So, John, what is it you think that is encouraging people to leave or preventing them from coming into the profession in the first place? I mean, I don't know if you see it as similar factors influencing both that trainee recruitment and also the retention. What do you think are some of the things that are influencing it?
Well, I suppose we have to flag funding and therefore understaffing, and that's going to be an issue. Even the new flagship breakfast clubs have been hit with people saying, "Oh, sorry, we've signed up, but we can't do it because we haven't got staff." So there is a big funding issue. I think there is a behaviour issue. Um, and I am sure that part of this is because we're failing to meet the special needs, or largely failing to meet the increasing complexity and frequency of kids with additional needs. This has an impact on their behaviour. It has an impact on their attendance. So all of that, and I have two of our sons are teachers, and they report this. It is the behaviour is definitely an issue. One of my boys is a head of department in, as they used to say, a challenging coastal school, and they didn't do very well in Ofsted and got hoovered up by an academy chain, which is putting them under massive pressure, which he doesn't like very much. But one of the reasons behind all that was the behaviour of the kids. Because if you're in that particular location, A, you don't get well behaved kids per se. Uh, B, well, many of these kids aren't going to get a job. So, and they know it. So I don't know. And then, as I said to you earlier, I'm a chair of governors and we have Ofsted in now, as I speak, and Ofsted is a massive putter offer. I happen to be of the view that Ofsted has had its day. Now, I inspected for Ofsted for 17 years. So I've done a lot of Ofsted inspection of primary, secondary, early years, special. And it was the purpose of inspection, we used to be told, is to raise standards. Okay, well, that probably happened. And we did need to do a sort of doomsday book of schools. But the thing, the whole thing has changed its focus. You will know from the death of Ruth Perry, which got a lot of publicity. But as I had said many times in print and on the radio, um, Ruth Perry was the third head teacher to take her own life as a direct result of Ofsted. Well, it's not right yet, and I don't know what we do. So that is definitely a putter offer. And then there's I suppose there's competition from different trusts and local authorities. And it must be having an impact on the people that are doing the job. In my particular location, we were looking at to join one or two, we were looking to join an academy chain, and we had an interview with a well-known chain who told us, if you join us, your standards will get better. We thought, you don't know anything about our standards, so why would that be? Um, and I talked to a colleague of mine who works for the same trust, and she said, avoid them like the plague. Now, all of that is changing people's working conditions. And I think that there is too much, turbulence in the system. There's turbulence for the teachers. There's massive turbulence and pressures on leadership. We looked at those figures of the people that are going to leave head teachering. A former teacher colleague of mine said this: my daughter thought she'd like to be a teacher, but thank goodness she's changed her mind. And that sums it up. My son, who is, as I said, head of department, said the other day, if this pay rise covers my teaching and learning allowance, I'm going to give up being head of department because I don't want to do the job anymore.
Oh, that's such a shame, isn't it? And I say in some ways it's great. You've got sons who wanted to go into teaching, having seen your life as a head teacher, and that's a great testament to you and what you've been doing. But it's a real shame, isn't it, to have people feeling that way. So, do you have ideas about for school leaders? What's within their power to do to affect these circumstances? There's some policy things we might not have the power to change, or we can't wave magic wand. But do you think there are things that school leaders can do to create the conditions that people want to work in and will entice people into schools?
Yes, it's one thing enticing them, it's another
Keeping.
keeping them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think we can entice them. I know from 25 years of teacher training that we have had some wonderful people who've trained as teachers, uh, but they don't stay, as we've already said. So what can we do? Well, it's easy to say and hard to do. We need to take the pressure, whatever that means. We need to be kinder. Now that I know sounds trivial, but we need to be kinder to our team. The school where I'm chair, we are kind to our teachers. The teachers say, this is so much better than where I used to be because people believe in me. And we've got to generate that kind of feeling. My son down in the challenging coastal town doesn't feel believed in. So we need to be kind and understanding. And do you know what? We need to be more encouraging of part-time working. Both of my lads who are teachers don't work on a Friday because they want time for family things and other things. Uh, Fortunately, they're in a position to be able to do that. But part-time working is very useful. When I was in school leadership running an extraordinarily challenging school, which we took out of special measures, also in a challenging coastal town, one of my best teachers was two people. They were an awesome team, these two women. They played off each other, each taught 0.55, so they had a day's recovery. They were amazing, and that made a lot of difference. We need to allow that to happen more. Part-time working, uh, it's expensive, and of course, back to the old funding issue. And we need to protect people's PPA time, their time talking to colleagues, working with their colleagues in school for planning, preparation, and assessment. And we need to protect that and not steal it because we need to cover class X because so and so's away. How we do that, I don't know. I guess we're going to talk about teaching assistants. And that's another question. Who wants to be a teaching assistant? Um, More people than used to be, but they can go, they say to me, I can go down Tesco's and I can work on a till for more than you pay me. So, yeah, it's across the piece, this.
Brilliant. Yes. Yeah, flexible working, isn't it? It's something that's coming up in a lot of the
Yeah.
surveys as something that people want. And it can be something, say, as simple as, you know, being able to take PPA time off site. Sometimes
Oh,
having,
yes.
yeah, having access to ad hoc days off. And on the part-time working, yes, I can see in terms of your stuff, you might see an increased staffing cost. But I wonder if, as a school leader or head teacher, you might also in the end see some benefits because if it keeps
Mm,
people in your school, if it supports retention and you're not losing staff,
mm,
then you're saving on those recruitment costs, for
mm.
advertising when someone leaves, you're not having to bring someone new in. So potentially even people who work part-time maybe are able to stay well and healthy, and you see less absence cost. So there might be ways of addressing it, mightn't there? Mm.
And the other thing that just crosses my mind that we might encourage schools to do, and I'm not sure I've got an answer to how we do this, is to develop relationships with higher education providers and with teacher training organizations so that there is that pool of people who want to come to your school as a training placement. And most training is now done on the job. We got good ways into teaching. And the introduction, and we did a paper on this, didn't we? The introduction of the non-graduate teaching apprenticeship makes a lot of difference. The problem at the moment is telling people about it and getting schools to believe in it and getting schools to accept non-graduates because there's something in us as professional teachers that go, oh, you've got to be a graduate. I used to use and I've used it a couple of times, the unqualified teacher route. I had a fantastic unqualified teacher. I was running what we then called a training school um, in the Medway Towns. We were a very big four-form entry junior school. We had a fantastic special needs department, and we divided into 4-year groups plus the SEN department. So we were definitely 5 departments. And one of our reliable people initially in the SEN department was a teaching assistant. That's all she was, unqualified teaching assistant. So we put her onto the unqualified teacher scale. It made a lot of difference. And I've encountered since people that join on the unqualified scale and they spend their time doing a degree. I can tell you as a head teacher, if I had somebody on the interview panel in front of me, or at least somebody's application in front of me, and they've done an open university degree, I would say that will guarantee you an interview with me. Because if you've done an OU degree, you've worked darn hard, you mean it, you've taken the hard route, and you're going to be committed because you worked for it. So teachers can join the profession on the unqualified teacher route. They can be as long as they like doing their degree. How long's an OU degree? 3 years, 6 years, as long as you want it, really. Um, and then there is this wonderful thing called the assessment only route, greatly ignored by schools because they don't do the thinking. We understand about apprenticeships. We're beginning to understand about non-graduate apprenticeships. We don't really get the unqualified teacher thing. We've got an unqualified teacher. We used to call them instructors. Some schools still do. But we hadn't thought about assessment only. I looked it up the other day. It's a perfectly valid route into teaching. I have done, as a teacher training, loads of assessment only visits. And quite frankly, it's quite low key. You turn up, look at the teacher, chat to them, look at the evidence they've got, and say, yeah, okay, you need to do A, B, and C. They do A, B, and C. You go back, you look at them, look at the evidence they've got, and go, yeah, okay, Lo, you are a teacher. And there's a lot of value in that because one minute they weren't a teacher, now they are. They were on the unqualified teacher scale, which isn't terrible, and now they're on the paid teacher scale, which is still terrible. And that's one of the other problems. My son, who joined teaching, as I did actually, after being a car salesman, isn't that funny? Um, he said if I'd stayed in car sales, I'd be earning double the money. So we come back to funding, I suppose.
He probably wouldn't have as good a pension.
And
Uh,
he won't have as good a pension as I have. I'm on a final salary pension.
wow.
He won't be.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the teacher
Mm.
pay, because I can really see, yes, we need our teachers to feel valued, and
Yep.
it's a barrier potentially, isn't it, for people coming into the profession if they can earn more as graduates or something elsewhere. However, I can also see, I've seen all the desperate LinkedIn posts from finance managers or business
Mm.
managers saying,
Mm.
we're not going to be able to afford this, we can't do it. So it's a really tricky, but yes.
I was going to say, people need to want to do it,
Mm.
enjoy doing it, feel valued, feel adequately recompensed financially, and want to make a difference. Nobody is in teaching who doesn't want to make a difference.
And perhaps that's partly it, isn't it? When people feel more of that crunch or when they're not feeling valued. And
Yeah.
I do feel that's another big thing that's going on at the moment, isn't it? I think people perhaps not feeling valued, appreciated, or feeling they can't make a difference
Mm.
because of it, as you alluded to, all these other problems and things that
Mm.
are going on and that schools seems to be needing to deal with.
And in the background, there's still Ofsted, who, whatever way you play it, I don't care what the chief inspector says about it getting better. It's not getting better, mate.
Yeah, we're awaiting, aren't we? At this point, we're awaiting the results, the outcomes of the consultation.
Let me tell you something about that. there was this so-called big listen, and I had written quite a complex paper on the psychology of Ofsted inspection, uh, because there is a big psychological dimension, particularly if you look at the Bruce Perry case. And I've got some qualification in this stuff. And I submitted it to the big listen, and they went, "No, I don't want it." So I sent it to the chief inspector, but I got not so much as a thank you. Who knows?
Yeah. Let's hope that there will be some listening and some
Mm,
changes. We will
mm,
see. But in the meantime, I think it's great that you've alluded to these kind of more creative ways of
mm.
bringing people into our schools and being open-minded and seeking out the talent, looking at the talent that's already there in your, yeah, whether within your teaching assistants, it could be within your parents, it could be your student
Yes,
alumni. And perhaps it would be nice for you to share with us a bit about how, because I think you've also applied some of that creative thinking to the challenge of governor recruitment. So that's biggest volunteer workforce
it
in
is the
in
biggest
England. Is
volunteer
that
work.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
But again, bringing in a diverse, rich group of people can be
Mm.
difficult. So give us a few of your top tip
Okay.
things to
I
do.
happen to think that the governing body which I currently lead is pretty snappy. I think we're darn good. And one of the reasons we're darn good is we built up a model that doesn't have, as John Cleese would have said, meetings, bloody meetings. We have what's called governance without committee, circle model. So there's not constant committees for this, committees for that. We've got 12 people. We have a finance team. But apart from that, we have monitoring pairs, monitoring individuals. We take great interest in what happens in the school. We are we're all over it. There's not much we don't know about the school. And for the first time since being chair, and I've been chair for, I don't know, 9 or 10 years, for the first time we're fully complemented. So we're obviously doing something right. So where do we get? Okay. Um, we put something on the local Facebook page, local community, and we've actually picked up a couple of people through that. One guy turned up, came to a meeting, and then went away. We heard nothing more of him. So I contacted him and he went, okay, I was a bit scared, but I'll come back. Came back and then ran away again. So, okay. As I keep pointing out, you don't need to know anything about education. There's one or two of us here that do know about education. We want you to know about other stuff. I just acquired a local, well, she's now a local authority governor, because getting a local authority governor in my local authority uh, is a lost cause. They don't know anybody. Um, and so she's been accepted as local authority governor. She's a property, she does clever things in engineering. And I said, "What is it you do most?" And she said, "Data and finance." Oh, welcome. Data and finance. Yes, when can you start? Um, we've approached local businesses. This is a mixed blessing, but we did have the person, one of the two people responsible for HR across the whole of Marks and Spencers as one of our governors. Um, Sadly, Marks and Spencers, they made her redundant and she's gone and moved away. But there, we've tried other local businesses with mixed success. Now, there is a site called Governors for Schools, and we picked up one or two useful people from Governors for Schools. Um, the problem that governors have, as we're finding, is that we all lead busy lives. And I've got one governor at the moment who's doing very well, but hasn't managed to come to a meeting. She misses one more, she's gone. And I'm sorry. So governance is interesting. I was disappointed to read that the Catholic Archdiocese are now suggesting that governors who oppose the new Catholic plans for mega maths should resign. We can't afford to say to governors, you need to resign because you don't agree with A, B, or C. So it's a bit like recruiting teachers. We want to be kind to them. We want them to feel valued. We want them to feel they're making a difference. Um, I have to say, at the moment, my governing body, we feel very on top of things. Whether we'll feel very on top of things after the feedback meeting tomorrow, I don't know. Um, but we can recruit diverse, talented people, but we just need to be active around it. And we have to keep those networks going and keep exploring those networks. Somebody's got to do it. Invite parents in. We often put in a parent newsletter that we're looking for governors. That used to bring in people. Now people say, oh, I don't want the pressure of that. So we have to be creative. But yeah, I think it works if we keep it interesting. And well, I'm a big fan of the circle model. Don't have meetings, bloody meetings. But there we go.
That sounds like a great tip. And Johnny, it'd be great to finish by hearing about anything you've been reading or listening
Mhm.
to recently, which you found really useful or inspiring, would like to share.
Okay, three useful books. My old mate Dave Coles and his mate Bob Twells. I've done lots of work with Dave and Bob over the years. They wrote a book in 2019 called Man. It's still a good read. Man by Rates Publishing, WRATE, Rates Publishing. Dave Cole and Bob Twells. The wonderful Ross Morrison McGill, who I noticed got invited to 10 Downing Street the other day. Some of you may know him as Teacher Toolkit. Also 2019, Ross, who used to be deputy head of a school that we worked with when I was in teacher training, interestingly. But Ross wrote Mark, Plan, Teach. Good, simple, sensible advice, particularly if we want to make things easy for people coming into the profession. And if you really want to be depressed about stuff, read Beyond Belief, Why School Accountability is Broken and How to Fix It. It's by Andrew Morrish, and he's from Headrest, and it's just been published this year by John Catt.
Thank
So
you.
there's my three suggestions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure that Beyond Belief sounds like a really interesting read. I think I've seen things about it. So thank you, John, for those great ideas. And yeah, thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom and thoughts with us. It's been really useful. And I think be kind is a great mantra to go away with.
Thank you, Liz.